address about these classes by Dr. V. Srilata, our Associate Professor of English. Then you have a very important lecture, very interesting lecture about this environment, because now we are all very concerned about our global environment. So by a PhD scholar, by Ms. Feba Francis. So do not miss that program. And after that, you please fill in this feedback forms and submit. Okay. Now exactly at 10, we are going to share the link to you and finish the test and submit. And be ready on the live, because yesterday we had to wait for you. I hardly had students on the live. So once you are done with this, you have to be on the live so that we can resume our program. Okay. So thank you, girls. Get ready for your test.
Hello, girls. I hope you are still doing your Google Forms. You have last 10 minutes to finish your Google Forms. So please do it fast. And you will have your professor ma'am, associate professor ma'am, introducing about your English syllabus and your curriculum for this year. Thank you. Hello, girls.
You are not.
Yes, Dil. So you'll be having your Associate Professor English Dr. V. Srilata addressing you about the English syllabus and the curriculum in this semester or in this first year.
Good morning, girls. Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Shilata. I'm working as Associate Professor of English in this college. So, we are going to discuss in this hour about our English classes and the syllabus. All right. So, in the very first semester, we do not have English. We don't have English. We have English in second semester, and in third and fourth semesters also. In the first year, you have English in second semester. Even though we have English in second semester, we are going to have one class exclusively for English for every branch. Okay. So weekly we'll be meeting once for 1 hour. All right. So what are we going to do in our English classes? We are going to discuss various activities. We have English theory and also lab. Weekly 2 hours theory we have and 2 hours of lab we have. So what do we do in theory? What are the topics which we are going to discuss in English class? Well, how do we do? English classes means we enjoy. All the classes will be very interactive and we are going to enjoy a lot. All right. So you may have a doubt that do we enjoy grammar classes also? Of course, definitely, because all the classrooms, whatever classes we have, all the classes are interactive. We are not going to discuss just grammar. Every grammar topic is an activity for us here. So here, if it is, for example, vocabulary, so we are going to have various activities like skits and a quiz, seminar, or an interactive class, or groups and pairs. Students, we are going to divide the classroom into groups and pairs, and they are going to have activities. So by activity based only, we are going to learn. In a play mode, we are going to learn the grammar, vocabulary, and all the topics, whatever we have in our syllabus. All right. So what do we have in English? We have 5 units, and every unit we have one reading comprehension. One excellent story will be there. All right. So how then we have vocabulary, then we have grammar, then we have writing skills also. So we have 4 components in every unit. So we have reading, comprehension. A text will be there where we'll be discussing. Reading means it's interactive. Interactive, how do we discuss? How do we read? We are not going to read the story and discuss this. We are not going to read and explain. So how the classroom is made interactive regarding the reading. So we'll be asked, we'll give what is the text about. So we'll show sometimes videos in our lab. Though it is a theory topic, we'll be showing you videos. Then, for example, I'll tell you, we have in first unit, R.K. Narayan's A Horse and Two Ghosts. So we'll be showing you the video. You have the text in your hands. So we'll be interacting. We'll be discussing what is there in the text. So every text reading part is a discussion wherein you develop comprehension skills. That means the skills to understand. And there will be a discussion. So what happens here? You will be analyzing the text. You will be analyzing after reading. You'll be understanding. And you develop your own interpretation. That means how do you visualize the text? How do you look at the text from your perspective? So in the classroom, all the students will come with different perspectives. They have their own interpretation. So we'll discuss why the so-and-so character has done, what might be the reason. So in this way, our creativity or critical analysis will be developed by reading skills, reading comprehension. So in every unit, we have one beautiful story. All these stories are selective pieces for developing various skills in the students. All right. Next, we have vocabulary. We have various vocabulary, like we have synonyms and antonyms. We have homonyms, homophones, and homographs. We have words often confused. We'll discuss. So all this vocabulary is taught. All the topics of vocabulary topics are taught with activities only. So it will be very interesting, and the classroom will be lively, and students will be going and writing on the board. So you enjoy even vocabulary classes also. Then we have grammar, and in every unit you have grammar. And also, with grammar means we have tenses, voice, direct speech and reported speech, and many more. Writing skills also we have, like report writing, guided writing, expansion writing, paragraph writing, notes, letter writing, many more. So what I would like to say is each and every theory class is also very interesting, and it will be lively, will facilitate the learners, I mean you, so that you come up on your own. You have to utilize the opportunity. So we'll create a platform where you have to come forward, interact with us, interact with your friends, and discuss. Only communication will be in English. The only condition is you'll be talking only in English. Don't worry about the vernacular background students. Telugu medium background students will give you lot of support for you. You can come personally, you can meet your teachers, and you can talk. And I assure you that there will be a lot of development, improvement among yourselves. All right, coming to lab activities, what do we do in English class? English language laboratory. We have 2 hours of English language lab every week. So what do? We have various activities like jam. Jam means just a minute, where the student has to come forward and the topic will be given. Initially, 1 minute of time will be given so that they mentally prepare and speak for 1 minute. Usually, just a minute means that spontaneously the student has to pick the topic, and she has to hear it. It's a girl's college, so I prefer she has to speak spontaneously without any hesitation, without any deviating from the topic, any deviation. We'll give you the guidelines and you'll be talking. You'll be enjoying a lot, really. I ensure you that. And there are other activities. We have various videos, number of videos. Even for grammar also we have videos like determiners. We'll be watching the videos and there will be discussions. All right. And we have like reading comprehension, we have videos like speeches like I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King. I Have a Dream, where we'll be listening to the speech and we'll be discussing on that. And what you have learned, what is the purpose of including that particular text, that speech, as part of the syllabus for engineering graduates. So we'll be learning all those. All right, now talking about the lab activities, we have role play. Role play will be enjoying. Various roles will be given to you, and students are divided into groups. Okay, each and every group is assigned with some activity, some situation, and different roles. So each and every student, they will be given some 15 minutes to 20 or sometimes 25 minutes of time. So the group comes forward onto the dais, onto the platform, and they'll be enacting. So all the students will be enjoying. Okay, so role play is one of the most favorite topics for all the students. What I heard is, all right, I don't say just this is the only most fun activity. We have other activities also, like group discussions. Say group discussion means it's not asking the students to sit around the table and discuss on a given topic. Initiation, starting the discussion and carrying the discussion and finally giving a conclusion. That's not the thing what we are going to do at Stanley. So we'll be asking the students to sit around the table, and around in the big hall, there will be students around watching you. So they'll be observing you. How do you use your body language? How do you maintain eye contact? When you're talking at the time of participating, when you participate in group discussions, are you maintaining eye contact with everyone in the group or not? So your own friends who are sitting around you will be uh, observing you. They'll observe you and they'll analyze you and they'll give you critical commentary also. So spontaneously you are learning how to criticize also, how to give constructive feedback also. This is how we are going to train you to make you a good partner, or to start for your good career, for developing your career. So here what happens in group discussion is, so students will be, group of 8 to 10 students will be participating, sitting in a round table. All right. So here, I'll ask, once the GD is done, group discussion we have done with, we'll be selecting 2 or 3 students or 1 student from each group, and we'll give a second turn by giving another topic. So here, we'll ask the students, those who are sitting around you, other than the participants in the group discussions, whom should we select? So they'll be coming. So I would go for this girl or so. So I'll be questioning them. Why is she your friend? Why should we choose that girl? She has participated. She has interacted. She has good topics. She has authentic proof. She has maintained her body language. She has really maintaining a smile on her, maintaining good eye contact. So all these factors, they'll be adding points so that selection will be done once the group discussion is going on. So finally, 1 or 2 students will be selected from 3 or 4 groups. Then there will be another group discussion. Spontaneously, no time will be given. And later, at the end of the GD, we'll be asking the experience of the students. How did you feel when you participated for the first time? And again, when you participated, you got chance, luckily, for the second time to participate in group discussions. So what was your experience at the beginning, and how do you feel now? So they come up with a smile on the face, saying that we feel very happy. Initially, I was with tension. I couldn't participate. I couldn't show my hand movements or body language. I couldn't maintain smile or eye contact. So students will be coming forward. So when there are critics in the classroom, you'll be learning a lot. That's I would like to say. All right, there is another topic, debate. Debate will enjoy. Really, seriously, why a madam is saying every topic will enjoy? Such topics are there in English. You ask me whether you really enjoyed or not. I'm sure. So debate is what is the advantage of participating in debate means we learn the subject from various perspectives, not just by improving our communication skills. That's in every activity. We enjoy, I emphasize this, we enjoy a lot. So there will be 2 teams. So it's not physical fighting, it's a fight like an argument. It's a fight, and we really enjoy. So how topics come out, how thoughts come out, how do we rebut the skills, opposite points, everything we'll be discussing. It's an argument, but we cannot express anger there. So some instructions are given. So based on the instructions, students will be following and they will be enjoying debate also. All right. And the next most important topic which really students enjoy is interview skills. Let me ask you first, why do all these activities we are training are given, why these activities are included or prescribed in English syllabus? To train you for the interview so that you get a good placement. So jam sessions particularly are given, the training is given for the students. Spontaneity is developed spontaneously. What is there in students' mind? What is their background knowledge? Based on their experience, past experience and background knowledge, and without any hesitation, how do they come forward and speak spontaneously in the given time, effectively, in an impressive manner? So that's what we are going to check when we participate in JAM. All right. So even in the group discussions also, how leadership qualities are there? Why GDs are conducted at the time of interview? To test their communication skills, obviously. That's there everywhere. When you talk, when you answer, whether you have good listening skills or not, they'll be checking. Because at the time of interview, what happens generally is when a question is asked, the students prepare mentally answer for some question, expecting that we are going to be asked that question, and without listening, they'll be answering that question. So there they lack. So listening skills are also taught here, listening for comprehension. We are going to play various videos and there will be questions followed by videos. And there are so many, the answers are so tricky. We should be very smart enough to eliminate the answers. So we should listen attentively. So we are honing, sharpening your listening skills in this way. The very first activity what we have is listening skills, listening for comprehension, where we have listening with various accents. We have British accent, we have American accent. So we'll be listening to various accents and answer the questions and after the listening part. All right. So in this way, listening skills are given training for the listening skills. Listening skills are tested. All right. And not only that, we have wonderful topic, phonetics. Phonetics is the first time you might be listening or you might have learned at intermediate level, may not be in depth. It's a wonderful topic. Phonetics means it's a study of sounds in English. Sounds in English, we have symbols, we'll be teaching you all the symbols, we'll be training you how to pronounce. And we have stress also, we'll be training you how to where to put stress mark. Is it record or record? Is it object or is it object for the same word? So we'll be giving you training where the stress will be and why do we need to give stress? If we put stress on at the first part of the word, what does it mean? If we put stress on the second syllable, the syllable is there. We'll teach you all those things. You have no worries. So you're going to improve your pronunciation also, not just listening. You're going to speak with good pronunciation. And also besides it, we have intonation, very interesting talk, really enjoy. So what is this intonation? So here, sometimes we have to express our emotions or feelings. So just by using words, can we convey all our emotions? No, it's not possible. So what do is we teach intonation. All right. I'll give you one funny example. So if you want to say thank you wholeheartedly, you say thank you very much. Am I right? This is tone. We use a falling tone, rising tone. We'll discuss in the class. And if you are not happy with the work done and just for namesake, if you want to say thank you very much, thank you, thanks. So there are various tones. So which tone do we use? Are we using rising and falling or only rising or only falling? We'll be discussing and we have fun in this also. So every activity is fun based. We are learning in a play way, in the play mode. All right. And we also have interview skills. Interview skills means we are not going to just train you how the questions are asked and also how we need to answer, how do we need to maintain body language. We're also conducting mock interviews. We are also conducting mock interviews also. What do you mean by mock interview? Mock interview means in the class, it's a fun in the interview. It's just how the interview will be in general. We are going to show you practically. So in the lab, we are going to have a very big hall and chairs will be there around and we'll be arranging a table. Panel members. So we'll be asking the students, 3 to 4 students to sit in the panel. So they'll be asking questions and we'll assign roll number wise randomly who is the lucky girl. So we'll be calling the number and the student has to come. So it will be a funny thing. So sometimes they may answer well and sometimes they may not. So what would be the better answer? Why? So we'll be giving a mock interview will be and will be training the students to face the interview. It will be funny. They have to knock the door, just act like that and come with a file and there will be changing turns. Again, the student may take part as participating in the panel and some other student comes as an interviewee and sitting one interviewers. So this is how we are going to have fun and all the activities in the lab are enjoyable and we are going to have a lot of fun. So really we are waiting to see you physically and enjoy how all the things will go on. So we hope that we'll meet you soon. We enjoy all the classes. We'll keep in touch and all the queries what you have in English diagnostic test, the queries will be solved, answered in the classes. All right. Thank you now. So stay tuned. We are going to have another lecture by Feba Fernandes, and she is a professor in physics. She has done her bachelor's in physics from Osmania University and master's in ocean and atmospheric sciences MSc from University of Hyderabad. Currently, she is pursuing her PhD in University of Hyderabad. So we are going to have a beautiful lecture on physics. All right, stay tuned. Thank you.
So good morning, girls. I think you're all getting ready to listen to this very nice, very informative lecture that will be given by a doctoral student. Okay, ma'am already gave you introduction by Feba Francis. So she's doing from a very interesting topic that is about the Indo-Pacific drivers of the Indian summer monsoon, decadal variability in the telecommunications and decadal prediction. So something like that you might not have the opportunity to know. So I request you all to be very keen on this, listening to this lecture. And at the end of this lecture, you can ask a lot of doubts about our environment, about our global warming. And you know now, very recently, this Nivar, and you know that it has affected the lives of so many districts. So you can ask a lot of questions on this, girls. So by the way, I've been getting still this WhatsApp messages about this syllabus and then stuff like that. I told you yesterday that you will have your core the department activity from this December 2nd, and when you are coming to the classes, I will share all the timetable, and then when you come back to the classes, every teacher is going to tell you. So no worries, you don't have to worry about it, girls. Okay, so now we have the speaker now waiting, so enjoy, all the best, and I will meet you again after the session gets over. Okay, right, girls, good luck.
Good morning, ma'am. We take a lot of pleasure inviting you. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, our students are eagerly waiting. They're actually telling we are actually waiting for the session now and all. So we want you to take over and start the session, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. This is really hard to talk because normally in a class you actually see students' face. Now all I see is my face. And I am Feba. I am a PhD student. I am about to submit my thesis, so hopefully I'll be a doctor within a couple of months. And my work is on climate change. I work on climate change and how it is impacting Indian monsoon rainfall. Today, I'm really glad that Stanley College of Engineering and Technology invited me for this webinar on environmental sciences. And I don't think I have to tell you how important environmental science is. Well, basically, I'm here to tell you that. So let's go. Meanwhile, if anybody has any doubts, you can always ask me. And I think it's a YouTube live stream, so you can always ask me questions in there and somebody will get them to me. Also, before I leave, I'll leave my presentation here. So if there are some links to it, if anybody wants, they can always use them later. Okay. Is my presentation clear? Okay. So, environmental sciences, why is it important? And what is it all about? So, I have divided my entire presentation into 5 parts. So, part 1 is what is it about? What is environmental science? What is it about? Second part is why is it important? Which is the shortest part and the most important part. The third part is natural problems. Why did I mention problems instead of disasters? So, there are some problems which are not a disaster, but actually which do not affect suddenly. So you cannot exactly consider it to be a disaster scientifically.
Ma'am, so sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, actually the presentation is coming very small, ma'am, if you see. So can you just switch off your webcam and put the presentation on?
Yes, sure. Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am, now it's fine.
Okay, yeah, this is easier for me as well.
Ma'am, actually now also you can switch on your webcam, ma'am. It will come small. There's one technical issue. This is one technical issue, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, you can carry on like this, ma'am, or else.
Okay, yeah, that would be better. Yes, so I have divided my entire presentation into 5 parts. First one, what is it about? Second one, why is it important? Third, natural problems. There is a reason why I am calling it a problem, not a disaster at this point, which I will explain to you further in the part 3rd. And the 4th is man-made problems. And the 5th, what we can do about it. If we have a problem, we have to find some solution. And I might not offer exactly right solutions because we don't have proper solutions yet. If we have, we won't have any problems. So but I can help you with where you can look for solutions. So let's see. What is this environmental science about? This definition I got from Wikipedia, and this is actually accurate to a great extent. Environmental science is an interdisciplinary academic field. It's interdisciplinary. That's very important. Most of the other fields, that's the reason why I choose climate change, because my master's was in oceanography and my bachelor's was in physics. The reason why I wanted to be here is because it's all interdisciplinary. I'm not doing pure physics, I'm not doing pure biology or pure chemistry. Everything comes together in environmental science: physical, biological, and information sciences. So why is this information science important? Because information science has a lot of modeling or a lot of computation techniques that you use, which is important for predicting climate For that, information services people, most of the people who work in climate change are also really good programmers actually. And then, which also includes not information science, all these includes ecology, biology, physics, chemistry, plant science, zoology, mineralogy, oceanography, limnology. Limnology is the study of lakes, freshwater lakes. Soil science, geology, physical geography, and atmospheric sciences. All this come together on the environmental sciences. And what do we do to the study of the environment and the solution of environmental problems? The idea of environmental science is to understand what is environment and also to try to find a solution for any problems that we face. What is it about? What is environmental science all about? It's about, basically, if we divide it, we can get into just four things. One, natural resources. Two, ecosystem. Three, biodiversity. And four, humans. So what are natural resources? First one, natural resources. Anything that we find freely is actually a natural resource. Like the air we breathe is actually a natural resource. We find it, nature has given it to us for free. Water, we buy water now, but water is actually natural resources which has been regulated now, which is also extend. There is a chance that this water would be over at some point. We are actually consuming much more than what we need. So I'll explain that in the fourth part. Then food. The food that we get is a natural resource. I understand that technically we are actually cultivating food, so we are putting a lot of effort into food. But even then, it's a natural resource because nature gives it to us. Third, land. Land is a natural resource which is exhaustive. There is only limited land, and we have to use what we can with that. Forest, energy. Here, energy, I don't mean energy like chemical energy or nuclear power plants. Here, the energy is mostly hydel energy or solar energy, which are all natural resources. Then minerals. Minerals, there are like, I don't have to explain what minerals are. Almost all the elements that we use, all the metals, everything comes under the minerals section. Natural resources. Second thing is ecosystem. So ecosystem is the most complex of all the four, because natural resources, most of these are all abiotic, they are non-living, and the ecosystem comes where the living things come into picture. So what is an ecosystem? An ecosystem, an interacting community of living organisms and their physical surroundings. So let's say, for example, if you see a pond, in a pond, you see a lot of mosquitoes or tadpoles, and then probably maybe one or two little fishes, all these. And then there's so much of algae, and all this together form one ecosystem. So there are types of ecosystem like marine, pond, river, forest, grassland, desert. Marine, for example, in the ocean, there are predators, there are consumers, there are you might be familiar with the concept of prey and predator. Predator is a deer, the prey is a tiger which is chasing it. Together they form an ecosystem. They all come together. So in ecosystem is like a cycle with a complete food chain. First there comes producers, then comes consumers, and decomposers and producers. So what are these things in the food chain? Producers are autotrophs. They are the primary things that actually produce food. For example, autotrophs means plants that can synthesize light, photosynthetic plants. Plants or some type of algae also do anything that is green, which converts sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide into food, is an autotroph. And then there are chemotrophs. Chemotrophs are similar to autotrophs. They synthesize their own food, and the thing is, with chemotrophs, they are mostly, you can find them near volcanoes. So they actually do, instead of light, they actually need some chemicals. Very few microorganisms do chemotrophy, but they are also significant. And then comes, these are the producers. They put a lot of effort. They are like a plant. For a simple example, let's take any plant, any uh, flower bearing plant or a fruit bearing plant. They're all autotrophs. They make their own food. And then what happens? Then comes the consumers. Consumers are heterotrophs, like us. Animals. Most animals are consumers. They don't produce their own food. They get food from other producers, which are plants again. And then consumers. There are two types of consumers actually. One, primary consumers. Second comes the secondary consumers. Primary consumers consume food directly from, like, for example, like the deer example that I have given you. Then comes the secondary consumers. Secondary consumers is a tiger. It does not directly eat an autotroph. It does not eat the grass. It goes and chases a deer and gets it. So it's the secondary consumer. Third comes the decomposers. Why are decomposers important? Decomposers are things that actually you can call them as the scavengers of the earth. There are a lot of bacteria that do that. Basically, decomposers are things that eat all the dead. Let's say vulture. Vulture is a decomposer, but not to a it's not a complete decomposer because even vulture does not get it back to the original state. The example I have given is bacteria because
Feva ma'am,
yes, yes,
sorry to
yes,
interrupt you, ma'am.
yeah,
Ma'am, students are requesting
yeah.
you can slowly you can explain, ma'am.
Okay, sure, no problem. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, sure, ma'am. Please continue, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, you were calling me. Sorry, my phone was away. Okay, thank you. I think it's okay if I start explaining from here. The decomposers part. Uh, Decompose. So every plant that grows, it needs three things that everybody is quite familiar with. It needs water, it needs sunlight, and also it needs carbon dioxide. This I'm sure that most of you have learned in school. It's very simple thing. That's how they make photosynthesis happens and stuff. But plants also need nitrogen. That's people, you might be familiar that a lot of people add fertilizers to plants. All agriculture, they use a lot of fertilizers. What is this fertilizer? Basically, they provide a lot of micronutrients. Micronutrients are not the major ones, but the smaller ones which are essential for plants to grow. And nitrogen is, anybody who knows anything about atmosphere knows that what are the main components of atmosphere. You know oxygen because you're breathing that. You know about carbon dioxide, you are breathing out, so you are exhaling a lot of carbon dioxide. And the third, but the most primary component of atmosphere is nitrogen. But plants cannot take this nitrogen directly. So what do? They There's a bacteria which actually fixes nitrogen into the soil. This is a decomposer. So if every time a plant, animal, or some things like these die, the producers or the consumers die, it's the job of the decomposers to get it back to the regular system, which is make them bring that biological matter to the inorganic chemical compounds. So decomposers are the most important actually. Without the producers, there are no consumers, and without the producers and consumers, there are no decomposers. But without the decomposers, there is no life. Entire world will be filled with all the dead from all the centuries, all the dead plants, dead animals, dead everything. So these three together form an ecosystem. Every ecosystem has that. And like the earlier example that I mentioned, marine means the ocean. In the ocean, again, you will find all these three. You find marine, you have find algae, which is the primary producers. You find a lot of phytoplanktons. Phytoplanktons are green floating microplants. They are microscopic plants, and they are the largest contributor of oxygen all over the world. And you find those, then you find little fish, very small fish, which actually live by feeding on these phytoplanktons. And then you find larger fish which actually eat. And then you find the large great sharks, or the blue whale. No, it's a vegetarian mostly, it does. And all the other large animals which feed on these small fish. So you find producers, you find consumers, and then comes the decomposers. So when a fish dies in the ocean, in the pond, it just goes down, or some other little organisms come and feed on it. The same happens in the ocean. Same thing in the river. Even in the forest, you find animals, which you find a lot of plants. A forest, so there is no scarcity of plants. Then you find all these consumers, the primary consumers, secondary consumers, and then come decomposers, and then the producers. Same with the grassland. Even in desert, the same thing happens. Everything, if it's a complete circle, you call it an ecosystem. Here you can see a small example of all this. So heterotrophs, autotrophs, heterotrophs. This mushroom is something that actually can also grow on decaying matter. If you have seen any decaying material, you might have noticed, like if, for example, wood, on decaying wood you see some sort of mushrooms growing, or else even on food you can see little fungus forming. They're all detrivores, or pla- uh, decomposers, which actually bring it back to the regular state. This pyramid, this shows, and human should be on the secondary predator, that is us. We mostly consume either plants or producers like primary predators or even herbivores. So we could be on the topmost scale in that pyramid. Third thing is the biodiversity. Biodiversity is the variety of the species. And fourth, humans. I don't think I need to tell you what humans are. Now, most people have a doubt here. What is the difference between ecosystem and biodiversity? Let's say, like I gave an example of a pond. So in a pond, it's clear you have a lot of species, and they remain in their physical surroundings. The physical surroundings are mostly similar for the entire species within that pond. For example, a frog cannot live in a desert. I mean, there are desert frogs. Let's think of a small different example. For example, a fish which is marine fish has to live in its own physical surroundings. You cannot put a sea fish in lake; it would die. Or same with the lake fish. Even you would say that it's the same water, but then there is salt, there is salinity. And if you're familiar with the concept of osmosis, which I think you might have learned in school, you know that fish skin is mostly semi-permeable membrane, which means because of osmosis, they would either get dehydrated or overly hydrated, which results in their death. Now, the difference is about ecosystem and biodiversity. Biodiversity, for example, you see a cat and a dog. Are they an ecosystem? No. They just are living together. You can see, I mean, in your house, you have a pet cat and a dog. They are not ecosystem because there are no consumers there. Unless the dog actually eats the cat, but mostly dogs don't. They just chase cats and they don't actually attack it. There is no decomposers. No, nothing. But are they the same species? No. They are diverse species, biologically diverse species, and together they form a biodiversity. But do they form an ecosystem? No. So biodiversity and ecosystem, you can say that they are like intersecting Venn diagrams, where sometimes they come together, some but not always. A giraffe and a zebra are in the same grasslands in Africa. They are a part of one ecosystem, but only both of them cannot. They are both biologically diverse. Do they become an ecosystem? No, unless there is a predator and then there's a decomposer. So biodiversity is just variety of biological life, whereas ecosystem is a complete system. They don't need anything extra for them to survive. They have everything within the pond. Like unless some external factor is applied, mostly a pond or a marine oceanic life can sustain all by itself. They have everything that they want to survive. And the fourth is humans. So these are the four things which come together and form the environmental science. And humans are, why is human factor so important? Why humans are also part of biodiversity, but why is humans a separate entity? The main reason is humans are the only biologically different species which actually modifies the physical surroundings around them to a large extent. Ants can form an anthill, but that's it. That's all they do. They don't change the surroundings so much that it would be difficult for other species to survive. Or sometimes we actually make an environment easy for other species to survive. For example, we take a pet. So if for a lot of people have a pet dog, if it's a street dog, it won't have the necessary facilities or uh, um, a proper system where it can grow really old. Mostly street dogs live a very short lifespan, a few years, and then once it becomes old, it cannot feed for itself, so it dies. Humans are something which can actually uh, control the ecosystem of ourselves. We control our own ecosystem, and also we control the ecosystem of other beings. Whereas other beings just adapt to a system. Like I think migration is a very common thing that you might have heard about. Migration means when an animal wants to, because of changing climate conditions or because of changing seasons. So animals from one region just move to a different regions. The great migratory birds are quite famous. They travel over 1,000 kilometers all the way from Alaska and to far in somewhere in South America, or there are Siberian birds which come all over to India in winter so that they can stay here in winter because Siberian winters are super cold. They live here, and once the summer starts, they just fly back. They travel thousands of kilometers. all this, they are adapting to the conditions of the ecosystem, whereas we don't adapt. We mostly change the system around us, which is why humans are also one of the most dangerous species around. Now, so all these all the four things, all these four, and then the natural resources, all these come together to form what the environmental science. Now the question is, why is it important? I think the actual question should be, why is it not important? Why is it not important? There is no reason. Why is it important is the most exhaustive answer, because uh, everything that we live, everything that we live for or live on, every species, everything is related to environmental sciences. It's not something that you can just ignore. It's not something like, for example, let's say an astronomical science. Even if nobody studies astronomy, it won't affect anybody's life. I understand it affects a lot of curiosity. You understand a lot of other factors, but it just in case, if I know the names of all the planets in all the satellites of the planet Saturn, I don't think it would make a lot of difference to anybody's life. Whereas if I know if it's going to rain or the air quality or the temperature, it actually makes a difference. It is directly affecting to the society. You cannot say that any factor in environmental science is not important. Everything is important. The water, the air we breathe, the water we drink, the land we live on, the forest, our food, everything is based on environmental science. So I would never say that anybody should have. That is why I think environmental science has been made a compulsory course in at least for one semester in almost all areas. Not only in India, everywhere all across the globe. I have been to 6 or 7 countries now, and everywhere they have environmental science starting from school. Not everybody has astrophysics. Not everybody has theoretical physics or dynamics or all the other sciences or the biology. I didn't study biology after school, but environmental science is something that cannot be denied its importance. It's the most important field right now. And if anybody has any questions, I actually thought that if anybody wants to say something, it could be okay. You can ask me now. I don't want a presentation which is continuous going on for a long time where nobody understands anything. Anyone?
Ma'am, actually, we are getting a
Yes.
lot of questions, so we have a question and answer session at the end, ma'am.
Yes, I thought like if it has 1 hour continuous class, mostly after first 40 minutes, just people lose track of what's happening.
Yes, but they are actually following, ma'am. They are asking, ma'am, did you try organic farming and all? They are asking, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Then let's continue with this.
Yeah,
Then I'll have more time for.
we are having a record of the questions, so
Okay.
that should not be a problem, ma'am. You can actually
Okay.
continue, and then we
Okay.
will
Sure.
be having a question and answer session at the end.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now comes the important part. So we understood what environmental science is. It's basically study of everything around us, and then natural problems. Okay. So before that, you might be familiar with natural disasters. Natural disaster. Sudden events. Sudden events caused by environmental factors resulting in loss of life, property, and creating significant disruptions to daily life. I'm definitely sure that anybody who is reading papers today would definitely think of the cyclone Nivar that hit Puducherry coast yesterday, or day before yesterday, midnight. Thing is, there is a difference between natural disasters and natural problems. Natural disasters are things that we happen suddenly because of environmental factors, like cyclone or a flood or a drought, all those things. Why did I write natural problems here? Because there are problems which are not exactly natural disaster, but which over a period of time are actually going to cause natural disaster. For example, like deforestation. If I say deforestation, is that a natural disaster? No, it's not a sudden event. It's not suddenly causing loss of life or property. You are actually getting some wood, so you would consider that not to be a disaster. But is it a problem? Yes, of course. Natural Other example would be like improper planning of urban cities. Improper planning, when you're planning, is that causing a loss of life? No. Is that a sudden event? No. Is it causing loss of property? No. But then there, when a flood happens, it is exacerbating the entire event, entire impact of the flood. So there is this little bit, let's say natural disasters is like a subset of natural problems. What are natural disasters? Okay, there are like, I just got 12 natural disasters, but there are little very few natural disasters that happen all over the time. For example, our corona is a natural disaster, which we can just not in a it's a global disaster. uh, so let's get, you might be familiar with tsunami. Tsunami is a giant wave that comes because of an earthquake. An earthquake happens in the ocean, somewhere in the ocean, and uh, so because they create small perturbations under the ocean seafloor, they actually get in, form gigantic waves which hit the, which strike the coast at heights and great speeds. And both this huge amount of water with the high speed, both impact at the coastline a lot. And 2004 tsunami, great tsunami, was one of the most common examples that people use. People in Japan are very familiar with tsunami because they have very minor tsunamis affecting them most frequently. Philippines is one place where the tsunami is a very common natural disaster for them. Earthquakes, the giant earth sometimes tremors, and you are measuring that in the seismic activity. People monitor that. These two natural disasters, you cannot exactly say anything about them. You cannot actually control them, or they're too huge for humans to actually intervene or help with anything of that sort. One thing is, if in Hyderabad, there is a center in COIS called INCOIS. INCOIS is Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services, which actually provides tsunami warning. They started it in 2004, but as a ocean monitoring services, and then they extended it to tsunami services after 2004. And for about 7 to 8 countries, they actually give tsunami warnings. So whenever an earthquake occurs near any coastline, so they always give information to that country that something is going to happen. There might be a chance of a tsunami, so beware. So all this warning system that actually happens from Hyderabad. We in Hyderabad actually give to, I know, to Maldives, to Sri Lanka, to Philippines, and sometimes you even have to give to as far as Hawaii. It's not that they don't know, but it's better to, if you know that some earthquake has occurred and a tsunami is going to happen, it's always better to give warning. Even if they have multiple warning, it's not going to be a negative thing. So we actually give warnings all over the world, but 7 countries actually totally completely dependent on us. Then what is an avalanche? Avalanche are, uh, avalanches and landslides are similar. So what actually happens in an avalanche is mostly snow related, and landslides are mostly land related. In hilly regions, when there is an excessive rainfall, the entire side of the hill collapses. That actually happened in the recent Kerala floods. Kerala floods, the water was one problem. The other problem was large part of the mountain actually slumped. Slumping means just fell down, like a building collapses. The hilly region actually collapses, and then that flows down along with the water, forming a landslide. The same thing happens with snow, which is called an avalanche. People who watch movies might be familiar with avalanches. The entire Ice Age series is all about avalanches. Ice Age is an animated series. Mostly people you might have watched in your childhood. Then comes droughts. What are droughts? Droughts are lack of water. That's a very common thing. And droughts is also a natural disaster, but the one specialty about droughts compared to all others is droughts is the only thing here which is on a longer time scale. Everything is short, like tsunami, just 2 3 hours. Earthquake, few seconds. Avalanches, maybe few minutes. Landslides, few minutes. Droughts is something that goes on for several months at a time, and it's not it's never sudden. Droughts are never sudden, but you consider that to be natural disaster because loss of life, loss of property, and considerable disturbance in your daily life. Then floods. Floods is a common thing. I don't think I need to explain about floods. Volcanoes. Volcanoes are not only natural disaster; they are also very useful things. Volcano, actually, everybody might be familiar that Earth is a sphere which has three. I think you might have learned in school geography, which has three layers. One is the crust, and the inner one is mantle, and the most innermost is the core. So mantle is mostly a liquid. It's lava. It's actually inside you call so at some point this there is an intensive pressure buildup inside the earth, and then it has to come out because of high pressures inside, and that forms a volcano. Volcanoes, we thankfully India has all the other problems except volcanoes, and there we have a volcano, a dormant volcano in Barren Islands in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. But thankfully, mostly it remains dormant and it doesn't disrupt our daily life. So we are volcanoes is one problem that we don't bother so much about it. But countries like Iceland or Norway, they have frequent volcanoes, and Hawaii has a volcano which is always active. Uh, and volcanic eruptions are really huge. In sometime in the 18th century, there was a volcanic eruption called the Krakatoa volcanic eruption from the Indonesia, and the smoke and the ash from the volcano was so huge that it actually pushed a lot of gases into the atmosphere, which remained in the atmosphere for more than 1 year. So the year after the volcano was actually considered to be a cold year. Why cold year? Because entire sky became dark for thousands of kilometers for over 1 year. Almost the entire earth was covered by that, because earth is a rotating thing. Anything that gets released into the atmosphere gets spread over into the atmosphere like an umbrella. So over a period of a few months, the entire world was covered by because of the volcanic ash, and the year after that was a colder year. It's not like very chilly cold, at least 1 or 2 degrees less than the normal thing. Then the forest fires. What are forest fires? If you read papers, I don't know if how many of you spend time reading papers. Last year December was one of the greatest forest fires ever in the history of Australia. Australia had such a great forest fire that they have never seen before, and that destroyed more than two-thirds of the Australian forest land. Even this year during this our summer, there was a forest fire in California. Every year there is a forest fire happening. Why is it a natural disaster? Forest fire releases a lot of carbon dioxide. One problem. Two, it disrupts the ecosystem. A lot of life gets lost in a forest fire. Australia lost almost about 80% of its koala. Koala is a type of little cute little bear. The bears, entire almost 80% of the species died in the forest fire. Then the pollution of forest fire, and of course the heat, the fire, they have their own issues. And the problem with forest fire is once it happens, it takes several months for the entire forest to get back to its regular regularity, regular livelihood. It takes several years for the trees to grow, for the species to come back to that place, and for it to regrow again. So forest fire is something whose impact can be seen up to several years. It doesn't last with 1 day or 2 days. Then, why cyclones, hurricanes, and typhoons? There's an interesting thing. Why are these three in the same place? A lot of you might think that cyclones are different from hurricanes or typhoons, but it's not. The thing is, anybody who studies oceanography use this idea that cyclones, hurricanes, and typhoons are three different names for the same thing: tropical storm. So, tropical storm is cyclone, same thing. Any tropical storm that happens in Indian Ocean is called a cyclone. If it happens in an Atlantic Ocean, we call it hurricane. And if it occurs in the Pacific Ocean, it's called a typhoon. So if you see hear news like something hurricane is hitting some west coast of US, it just is a cyclone. It's the same thing, but they use the word hurricane because it's in the Atlantic. Whereas if you hear some Japan has been hit by some typhoon, or Japan or Philippines, is just a cyclone which has originated in Pacific Ocean. Nobody says, "Oh, cyclone has hit Japan," because cyclone happens only in the Indian Ocean. They three are the same tropical systems. Just for just a nomenclature, just for a clear identification of what exactly is happening, they have been given different names: cyclones for Indian Ocean, hurricanes for Atlantic, and typhoons for Pacific. The most funniest name is actually Willy Willies, which is what the Australians call cyclones, Willy Willy, and that's the official name. And cyclones, hurricanes, typhoons. Cyclones, hurricane, typhoons are large spiraling winds with rain, strong winds. They push a lot of water into the ocean, from the ocean into the land, and then it rains consistently. Uh, the winds are really strong, so they uproot a lot of plants. They uproot large trees actually, and then they disrupt life. They cut power cables, they cut all the connection cables, and then they sometimes even cause collapse of houses and extreme flooding. All this, all this can be in live news actually. Like yesterday, cyclone Nivar has hit Puducherry coast and all this. So thankfully, this time we didn't lose much lives. And a few years ago, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, cyclones was not such a simple thing. Every cyclone, Orissa is one state which is the most prone to cyclones. Every year, they used to lose tens of lives, sometimes hundreds of lives due to cyclones. But thankfully, we have a proper cyclone management system now, which helps in giving cyclone warnings much earlier. Like we knew that Nivor was coming at least 5 6 days before it happened, and we can take proper precautions. We can actually remove people from there. We can quickly ask them to disaster manage relief for relief facilities come there. They provide relief. So cyclones is one thing which we try to we can minimize the damage. We can minimize by early preparation. Then thunderstorm. Why is thunderstorm a natural disaster? You might consider that thunderstorm is a small thing. It's just a rainfall in the afternoon. Thunderstorms always accompany with lightning, and lightning is one thing that kills a lot of people. Like Bangladesh last year lost more than 200 people just because of lightning. Different lightning strikes. The thing is, we don't have much problem in southern part of India because of light thunderstorm activity, but a central part of India has their own problems with thunderstorm. Their thunderstorms are mostly much more intense, much more for a shorter duration, and each of the lightning bolts are very deadly. Are if they act, uh, I think three people died in MP this very year just in one thunderstorm activity in Madhya Pradesh. And so thunderstorms and thunderstorm activities are also considered to be natural disaster, but thankfully they are only related, only remain in the tropical region. You don't find thunderstorm activity in extratropics or the poles. If it snows, there is no chance of thunderstorm. And then the tornadoes. What are tornadoes? Tornadoes are like, let's say, a mini version of and a cyclone. Cyclones are like extend to about thousands of kilometers, whereas tornadoes remain within a few, let's maybe a few hundreds of meters, some 20, 30 meters, or maximum. I think the largest tornado is about 2 or 300 meters. What is a tornado? It's just a spiraling wind. There is no rainfall, but the spiraling winds are so strong that they can actually lift anything. They can even lift trees, plants, even humans. Even they can sometimes lift cows, horses. All these, they spiral strong, very strong. The wind's velocity is much greater than compared to a cyclone or a hurricane or a typhoon. The strong winds, it's like using a vacuum cleaner. Anything it moves over, the tornado just keeps on moving, and anything it moves over gets sucked into it non-stop. And the tornadoes can move up to about hundreds of kilometers at sometimes, and there are sometimes very small tornadoes as well. Tornadoes are very common feature in extratropics. Extratropic, I think you might be familiar with what tropics are. Tropics are 23 and a half to 23 and a half north to south, all the region which comes between that latitudes. Extratropics are beyond that 23-degree. And now for the final part, heat waves and cold waves. Why are heat waves and cold waves natural disaster? Heat waves. Heat waves are when you find temperature which is unnatural to your region. For example, we have for Hyderabad, let's say 45-degree temperature in the summer is a common thing. It's not a surprise. Suddenly, if we get 48, that's a heat wave. Heat wave, you meteorologically, you would say heat wave. A region has heat wave when the temperature is more than 2 or 3 degrees compared to what it should normally get at any point of time. Cold waves. 2 years ago, it snowed in Florida after 100 years. that was the first time in 100 years that it stored. That is a cold wave where the temperature became too less compared to what it should be. Like Kashmir has a cold wave right now. Since the last 4 5 days, the temperature is much almost 2 or 3 degrees less than what it should be. Heat waves, what the impact of going out in hot summer. You get sunstroke, you get even cardiac arrest. Um, and all the extreme dehydration, these are impacts of heat waves, and the same comes with the cold waves. A lot of people who sleep on the streets die during winters, and they don't, because of the extreme cold and the inability to overcome that. Okay. These are all natural disasters. Of all these, there are some things that we can do to manage them. Heat waves and cold waves can be managed, we can adapt to it. Tornadoes, no, we can I don't think there is anything that we can do when a tornado strikes us except escaping from that place. Tsunamis and earthquakes give us very little time to actually escape. So, tsunamis at least are better. You at least have 2 or 3 hours of prime time before the event actually happens. So that is very short time, but still, at least lives can be saved, if not the property. Avalanches and landslides are sudden events which um, you can try to avoid these things from happening, but once it starts, I there is no proper measure how we can control that. It just happens. On the only thing would be rescue missions. Droughts and floods, to a great extent, droughts can be managed, floods can also be managed. Volcanoes, no, we cannot do anything about a volcano, but geologists actually give warnings that a volcano is going to erupt in a few hours or in a few days. So there are systems which actually measure the seismic activity inside a seismic activity is how we measure the amount of tremors that is happening inside the earth. So volcanoes actually, so people who measure seismic activity would get a proper warning that there is a stronger tremor inside the earth. Tremor means slight vibrations. So that is happening in the volcano. Once that gets increased, people get an idea that something is going to happen because it has started vibrating faster. And forest fires is something that uh, almost 70% of forest fires are actually man-made. Like the California forest fire, which destroyed thousands of tens and thousands of kilometers of forest land, was actually caused by one person who celebrated a birthday party. Just one person who had a flare. Flare is like a, how do I describe flare? Yes, flare is something that which lights up when you add a little bit of fire to it. So it's more like a, let's say, it's a handheld firecracker. You hold it on the hand, you light the fire, and then it sends a strong signal into the sky. If it's similar to a firecracker, but not so dangerous. The thing was, the sparks from that flare actually destroyed those many forests, and it was a man-made cause. And then thunderstorm activity, there is very little you can do about thunderstorm activity. The best thing to do would be to stay indoors. Heat waves and cold waves can be managed by having taking proper precautions. So so this brings us to the end of our third part, which is natural problems. And now comes the fourth part, which is the most important thing, because natural problems you cannot always do anything about it. Man-made problems, you are doing it. We are all responsible for man-made problems. So this is something that is the most important for us to do something about. For example, an earthquake is happening somewhere, so there is very little thing that I can do here. What would I do sitting here, unless I actually am somebody who is in relief system or in the rehabilitation centers, or at least in the seismic measuring activities or something like that. But I understand that most of you are first year BTech students, which means there is very little chance that you can do contribute to awareness or relief plans of natural problems right now at this stage. Maybe once you grow up, maybe you would, once you get a proper graduation, and then maybe you go into masters, and maybe you have more chances to contributing in the to help and avoid or prevent natural problems. But right now, the most simplest thing and the most common thing that you can do would be something about the man-made problems. So let's see what man-made problems are. We have man-made problems. Man-made problems we made, there are a lot of them. Actually speaking, the list can never be over, because uh, everything is a man-made problem. Everything that nature was fine. Nature is always stable. Nature is happy. Nature has very little problem unless we give it a problem. Nature is like a healthy person, and human man-made problems are problems that we give, like we make the healthy person sick. So if you see some problem with the nature, it's not nature's problem, we actually gave that problem to nature. Earthquakes have been happening for thousands of years, tornadoes, cyclones, everything happened for thousands of years, but nature still survived through that. Whereas man-made problems are something we are giving to it, which is making nature's our lives difficult, and also the nature. So water, improper land use planning. Why I understand that floods is a natural problem. Why is it in man-made problem? The thing is about improper land use planning. During urbanization is expanding a city or building a city. A lot of people don't take into measure about what was there before. A lot of floods. If you read today's paper, there's an article in Hindu. Today's Hindu. I read the online news, so probably it could be yesterday's news as well. What caused Hyderabad floods? The floods that we faced was not just because of the extreme rainfall. It was also because a large areas in Hyderabad, ponds and lakes are covered up, and now there are buildings over it. So what happens when the rain comes? The water has to percolate somewhere. Percolate means going inside, and once it's all buildings, water has nowhere to go, which is the reason why floods mostly happen in urban cities. Why aren't there so severe floods in villages? Because there's always soil where the water can get into the groundwater, it just can percolate slowly. There are floods happening in villages also, but comparatively cities are the ones which get flooded for multiple days. Hyderabad has frequent floods, Chennai had frequent floods, Bangalore has floods. Mostly, it's not that the villages nearby do not have floods, they have. But the thing is, the water lasts for few hours or maximum 1 or 2 days. After that, the water recedes. Recedes means decreases, level decreases. Improper land use planning is actually uh, uh, increasing the impact of floods. Maybe the water would have come to about 1 feet high level, but once we build buildings over there, what happened? The entire pond, the lake where the water used to accumulate, is closed. Now water has nowhere to go, so it just keeps on flooding, and that 1 feet level water becomes like several feet high and destroying a lot of buildings, causing loss of life, property, and disruptions to daily life. Then drought. Why are we causing drought? By using indiscriminate and improper use of water, groundwater, or any sources of water. Most of the droughts, see, when a drought is happening at one point of in one region of land, that doesn't mean that everywhere is a drought. Very few occurrences have happened where the entire region, the entire country is in a drought. Mostly it's one region. If other regions actually support that little region, that area can actually sustain and survive for longer periods. And second thing is droughts is improper conservation of water. If we conserve water, like mostly villages have this scheme where all over India have the schemes where they actually collect rainwater in small uh, ponds and stuff. So every village has a lake, large lake, where they accumulate water, all the water that comes. And then a lot of cities have rainwater harvesting. All these can actually help us prevent droughts is not just uh, it's understandable that there will be less rainfall, but sometimes if you manage water properly throughout the time when you have less water, the advantage is when you have no water, you can at least use some water which you have saved earlier. So what conservation of water is very important. Droughts cannot be completely eliminated, but at least you can have, uh, let's say, a little bit of a water. Not if not enough, at least something. Something is always better than having nothing. The third thing is pollution. Pollution. Water has pollution, chemical pollution. The two things that happen. Water is chemical pollution, plastic pollution. What is chemical pollution? All the fertilizers. I think the clearest example for that would be to go to the Musi River. Musi River used to be drinking water over 100 years ago. Even 50, 60 years ago, people used to Musi water for their daily activities like washing, bathing, and all that. Now that water is so polluted that even I don't think even people would dream of touching the water. Nobody wants to even touch that water. It's that polluted. So back there, when I was in college, there was this joke that if you jump in Musi, you do not die because of drowning. You die because of poisoning. The water is that toxic. So chemical pollution, and then the plastic pollution. I don't think that you need an introduction to what is plastic. Plastics you see all around. Even right now, if you look around, you would see thousands and thousands of things that is made of plastic. Plastic has become inculcated into our daily life that it's hard to think that what we would do without plastic. In the morning you wake up, you brush your teeth, you use a plastic toothbrush. In you take that out of toothpaste, which has a plastic case, plastic lid, and then everything you every day you we all begin our days and end our days with plastic. So what happens to this plastic? They all get accumulated. Why is plastic a problem? Why isn't the other things a problem? Because plastic is non-biodegradable. Biodegradable means anything that, for example, let's say a piece of paper. You use it for one day and just you throw it on the ground and observe it for a few days. After a few days, it just gets disintegrated and then decays and disintegrates and gets uh, degraded into the soil. It's just part of the soil, but plastic doesn't. The thing is, the first piece of plastic that was manufactured 200 years ago is still not degraded yet. It's still present. The thing and it never decays. Never plastic doesn't decay. So that was the reason why it became very famous, popular, because people thought that, oh, this could be used multiple times. It's not breaking. It's not like instead of having a glass ball, it's all people thought it's always best to have a plastic ball because it's not breaking so easily and it's durable. It's not biodegradable. And we didn't realize, we as in humans didn't realize the problem it would cause 100 years ago, and then inculcated plastic into our daily life. Now if I tell anybody to stop using plastic, it's not easy. It's not like you can just wake up one day and stop using plastic altogether. All you can do is decrease the amount of plastic that you use. Third thing is the plastic pollution. The next thing comes overutilization of surface and groundwater. Surface and groundwater. Why is overutilization? Overutilization is simple terms that, see, there are things that you can do with less water, which you can try to decrease the amount of water. A normal person apparently takes a bath for 8 minutes every day. Average. Some people take it for longer duration, or some people take it shorter duration. There are people who do not bath every day. But the thing is, average. On an average, a person takes 8 minutes. 8 minutes would be around 50 liters of water. Of course, some people use less water, but not everybody uses less water. So that water could be enough to solve a lot of drought issues in African countries. Or even, for example, even India faced an extreme drought where people actually killed each other for a bucket of water in Latur. That was in the year 2016 or 17. I'm not sure, but actually this actually happened. You can just Google it. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with just Googling words and stuff. So you can always Google that and find the Latur famine, which happened 2 years ago. So that actually didn't happen because there was no rainfall. Latur is in part of Maharashtra, so there are other parts of Maharashtra which have proper water supply. All they had to do was send it properly, like moderate the water supply properly. And I'm not saying that the drought could have been totally avoided. Here, the emphasis is not complete avoiding it, but the emphasis is on trying to manage it, trying to make it less severe. So this is just the water part. Now comes the land part. So what are the problems that we created for land? Deforestation. Deforestation, cutting of forests, removing a lot of forest land. And then the two things that directly affect us because of deforestation. One, soil erosion. Soil erosion is washing away of the topsoil because you take away the forest land. Trees have roots which actually hold on to the topsoil strongly, and soil erosion actually flushes away the topsoil. And because of that, the soil just underneath the topsoil is never fertile, because is what makes the soil fertile. It's not the sand or the soil. It's also the organic matter, biodegrading matter, which is suspended within the topsoil. Once you remove that, that soil is less fertile or sometimes even barren. Barren means where you do not have any proper agricultural crops, which where agricultural crops cannot grow properly. So deforestation causes that. Then desertification. What is a desertification? Desertification is making a land into a desert. If you remove the entire forest cover over a land for a period of time, and then if you leave it for grazing is all this cattle graze, cattle is eating food, grass is grazing, cattle grazing, overgrazing. After a point of time, the plants never grow. They never grow. For example, if you know a path, walking path, just if there, for example, there is a grassland, you might have seen some little grasslands here and there all over, some in cities or some other areas. Once children start playing there, and what happens, the grass slowly gets damaged because of their foots. But it's okay, playing is also important for children, and very few children have places to play nowadays. Over a few months, if the students continuously play, what happens, the entire land, the area where they play, do not have grass anymore. Simple thing is a cricket pitch. Where the batsman stands, there is very little grass because he's constantly standing there. And imagine this happening on hundreds of kilometers. Constantly, we are using hundreds of kilometers. That area has become a desert. Scientifically, desert is where a forest cannot grow. It doesn't mean all sand. It's in your head. You might have Thar deserts in your head, where no completely filled with sands. No, desert is a place where there are no plants. Plants cannot grow because the land became very infertile, or um, it is being used so continuously that the plants were never given a chance to grow. That's a desert, and we are actually increasing these deserts. The area of deserts are increasing globally, which is one impact from deforestation. Then the other problem is excessive usage of fertilizers, pesticides. Earlier I mentioned that we need nitrogen for plants to grow, and for that there is nitrogen fixing bacteria. But what about situations where we don't have that? We add fertilizers, okay, all good. But what if we add it too much? We are actually polluting groundwater. Fertilizer, when you apply fertilizer or pesticides to plants, what happens, maybe you would, and first thing is a lot excessive usage would be unhealthy for us. A little usage is understandable, but excessive usage is unhealthy for us, which is why we always make sure that whatever fruits or vegetables we eat, we don't eat it directly, we wash it multiple times, and unless it's organic and all. So and then the other problem is this pesticides or fertilizers gets percolated into the groundwater or gets washed away into running water and gets dissolved in river water. All this causes different pollution. Then land degradation. Once you start using a lot excessive fertilizer onto a piece of land, over a period of time land becomes accustomed to the fertilizer, so naturally it becomes less fertile. So every time you add more fertilizer, this time you add some 10 bags, next time you have to add 11 bags because the land is not becoming fertile naturally. And the next year you have to add 12. So over a period of several years, you are actually degrading the quality of the topsoil. That's one problem with excessive usage of fertilizer and pesticides. Of course, it also affects human life in the longer term. A lot of pesticides have carcinogens. Carcinogens are cancer-causing agents, like nicotine in cigarette, which mostly everybody who watches movie know that nicotine cancer-causing this. So nicotine is a carcinogen, and then there's another carcinogen which is arsenic. Arsenic is, you find arsenic um, in some sort of cleaning liquids, or else in vehicle fumes. Vehicle, the exhaust pipes have their they form a lot of arsenic. So all this, and these are all carcinogens, and excessive usage of fertilizer and pesticides also are cancer causing in the longer run. Third thing, again, land pollution, chemical pollution, and plastic pollution. Chemical, you destroy the land. For excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides is an example of chemical pollution. Then plastic pollution. Okay, I don't think, again, this is something that is very common. Plastic pollution, all you see, all litter, plastic papers, bags, plastic bottles littered all over the place with no proper care. you might see such places near coastlines, because a lot, or even near river sides and all, where the water pushes a lot of plastic, and then that stays in near some land, which over a period of time disturbs marine life or aquatic life, and also it affects the quality of the land. Or even pollution. There are dump yards. Dump yards are where you put a lot of garbage and sometimes you burn them or sometimes you just bury them. That land is not suitable for cultivation anymore. Mostly they choose lands which are already barren, but even if it's not barren, once you dump a lot of waste into one land over a longer period of time, the plastic stops the chemical, all the micronutrients from mixing with the topsoil, which causes it to become of lesser quality and infertile over a period of time. Then fourth part is excessive mining. Earlier in my natural resources slide, I mentioned that there are different natural resources, what, and the last one was minerals. All the minerals, iron, bauxite, uh, copper, zinc, all, there are like thousands of minerals actually speaking. And of that, a few are elements, few are, even diamond is a mineral. Excessive mining. How is excessive mining impacting? Mining mostly involves a lot of blasting, which affects the entire ecosystem or even affects the um, gravitational core of that region. So center of gravity always, mostly when you destroy half of a mountain, the center of gravity shifts, which also could cause avalanches or landslides. And then excessive mining also impacts, because mostly the mines, the region where there is a mining happening, like given granite mining or um, coal mining, all these regions become very infertile for a long period of time because of the excessive influence of the chemicals which you actually are bringing from underneath the ground. And then also, when you have declaring that one region is a mine, mostly you have to destroy a large amount of forest. Like Chhattisgarh, recently people were asking this, a lot of people have started a campaign asking government not to give the Chhattisgarh forest land. Almost 4 lakh acres of forest land has been given to a private group to for mining. And what happens when they start mining? The entire 4 lakh kilometer 4 lakh square kilometer area of forest land gets destroyed. They cannot mine underneath the forest. They have to destroy the top forest and then start mining. So that is also something that man-made problem. And air pollution. So we are destroying a large part of water. We are destroying a large part of land. Also, we are destroying air that we breathe. Air pollution, what causes air pollution? Vehicular, excessive burning, vehicular emissions, um, unnecessary uh, unnecessary usage of um, CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, unnecessary use, like the air conditioners that you use, they all release a lot of CFCs. Now it's not CFCs, HFCs actually, but still all that contribute to the air pollution. Or even emissions from jet planes, all the emissions, they all contribute to air pollution. Now the most thing, that common thing is that what happens with stubble burning in northwest part of India, like the Punjab, Haryana. If Haryana, Punjab, mostly Delhi government is now fighting against Punjab and Haryana government because they are requesting them to curb the air pollution, the stubble burning. Stubble means once a crop has been harvested, there is a little bit of grass, the crop's basic roots are present inside the field, which mostly the farmers burn, because uprooting each thing would be waste of time for them and also exhaustive and labor, physically, mentally, and also laboriously. So they always choose to find the easier method, which is burning them. And that has contributed a largely to the Delhi pollution right now. The second thing that air pollution affects is health. How does air pollution affect us? It affects our health. It causes asthma or other respiratory problems. And India, about 6 million people are suffer some sort of disease. It could be as big as cancer or as small as even a dry cough or breathing difficulties because of air pollution and its health hazards. Next thing is acid rain. What is acid rain? Acid rain is, normally rainfall is slightly acidic in nature. If you know what a pH scale is, You are all engineers, so you might have studied uh, what is pH scale sometime in your school or in your junior college, 11th and 12th. So pH scale, if it is 7, it's normal, it's neutral, like pure water, drinking water. If it's less than 7, it's more acidic in nature. Anything more than 7 is actually basic in nature. So rainwater normally has a pH of about 5.6, slightly acidic in nature. It's not harmful for us, it's normal, because there is carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Then rainwater, as it falls, it just slightly dissolves with the carbon and then reacts with it and forms HCO3, and or else if it reacts with nitrogen, it forms some sort of nitric acid, and that's how it comes to the ground. But the thing is, if there is too much of air pollution, like say a lot of sulfur, different types of sulfurs mixed in the air, so what happens, that actually um reacts with the rainwater, and then the rainwater's pH decreases much below the basic, not basic. Here the basic is general, not alkaline basic. So general 5.6, it becomes much lesser than that, which means it becomes more acidic. And these acid rains are very deadly. Mostly the rainfall that we receive is slightly more acidic than the rainfall that people receive in villages. And also the rainfall that actually we consider right now, the standard is to measure what is the normal pH of rainwater somewhere in, let's say, in the ocean. So ships have measurements, they actually measure that, and they get an idea of, okay, this is how much it rains if there is no human activity here. This is the pH. But we actually get a slightly more acidic rain over cities. And then there are extreme acidic rains where the rainwater is very acidic, on onto a scale of being toxic, which affects all the aquatic life once the water reaches there. And also then it also corrodes a lot of buildings, corrodes the vehicles. You might not see the difference in 1 or 2 days, but over a period of time you can see actually acid rains affecting most metal bodies, or even building structures. Even Taj Mahal is considered to be slightly affected. The marble has slightly eroded because of acid rains. And then comes the huge thing about global warming. Global warming. What is global warming? Global warming is basically, if you take the average temperature of the entire world, it should be 15 degrees Celsius. But that is what we should expect. But over a period of time, that has increased. Now it is 15.2. We humans have increased the temperature of the whole world by 0.2 degrees Celsius in a small period of post-industrialization, which is what, let's say, 1790. In a span of over 200 years, we increase the temperature. What is the problem with this one? Extreme natural disasters become extreme. um, how global warming is affecting the climate change is, it's not a small thing that can be discussed in 1 or 2 lectures. It's one entire course. Or else people who are interested in it, they can just take a look at International Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, IPCC. Has every it would release its future reports in 2011, 2021, but the last one was released in 2013, and the subsequent one in 15. So that's actually a 1500-page document about how climate change is being affected. So if you have time, you can just take a look. You might not be able to finish all that at once, but it's a good thing to discuss about that. And then comes the ozone layer depletion. This is actually a success story. We have used excessive CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, and that has affected the ozone layer, which actually happened before. But thankfully, ozone layer is slightly recovering now since 2006. United Nations and all the countries have come together to stop using CFC and to decrease the amount of CFC that we are releasing into the atmosphere. And the CFC ozone is actually O3 oxygen. These CFCs react with oxygen and this ozone and then release oxygen. And because of that, ozone layer is important because they prevent a lot of UVA, ultraviolet A and UVB radiations from coming to the surface. So ultraviolet radiations are actually again carcinogenic. So they cause cancer, skin cancer, cataract, eye cataracts in your eyes, and also these carcinogens, ozone actually used to prevent or help us from the direct rays of the direct ultraviolet rays of the sun from affecting us. So once this ozone layer gets depleted, the rays are directly coming and hitting our skin, which is actually harmful and toxic in a longer time scale. So even if you use sunscreen, there is a limit to that. So now I know that a lot of people can use it, but that doesn't mean that everybody can always use it, which means it's always better to have a proper ozone layer than to depend on some other entity. And this is a success story because now the ozone layer is actually coming back. There used to be a huge ozone hole over the southern pole, over Antarctica, and that is slowly decreasing now. Mostly it has seasonal variations, so at this time it might be slightly more than it was in the summer. Our summer is different from southern summer. But it's mostly a success story. That is one thing that humans have tried to together. All the countries have come together and tried to stop a problem from becoming too big. So we have that, and for it to become to what it was normally much like it was before the pre-industrialization, it would take another 40 or 50 years. But at least we are doing something positive in that area. Other man-made problems, political conflicts. Political conflicts also affect political conflicts like war, or even wars actually are not exactly natural disasters, but they cause a loss of life, loss of property, loss of the daily life. So that is also a man-made problem. Noise pollution. Noise pollution is one thing that a lot of people do not give a lot of importance to yet, but there are regions where it becomes uh, very intense. So that is something that is still not, let's say, it's not to the great scale where we have with other problems now. The one major problem with that we caused as man-made problem is we exacerbate the natural disasters. Exacerbate is to increase the impact, which is what I explained about flood. There is a flood, but when we actually do improper planning and construction, then that is actually increasing the amount of flood. Or even with the drought, when we actually decrease, uh, we use water indiscriminately, we are actually exacerbating, increasing the impact of a natural disaster. Even if there is a cyclone, and because a large volume of human population live along coastal regions all over the world, and when they do not take proper precautions, then they are also exacerbating the impact of cyclones by increasing greater loss of life. So man-made problem not only is limited to what is happening because we do with plastic. There are something which we actually exacerbate, like global warming or climate change is all about how we are affecting other natural disasters. Because of global warming, so the number of cyclones have increased globally because the oceans are becoming warmer. That could be a total. So we are not just causing problems, we are increasing the impact of already present problems. This is just a simple statistic of how many number of people who lost their lives due to various natural disasters. The earthquake and tsunami 2004, this was the one I mentioned earlier. The most common, that was the first time I heard the word tsunami. And I think that was also the first time India faced such a large tidal wave or tsunami in over last 100, 200 years. And the other thing is, mostly these statistics would be not be exact. This always remember that when an event occurs, not now, a few years ago, mostly the number that is shown in statistics could be slightly less than what is actually happening, because there are a lot of people who do not know how to report it to. There is very little chance that everything gets reported. When 2,20,000 people died, it could also mean that there could be more than 2,20,000 people, because you won't get records of each and every person. So that was the greatest disaster that happened. This is before Corona. Now Corona is the thing that the greatest natural disaster is Corona now. But this was until, let's say, the statistics until 2019. Then earthquakes, cyclone Nargis or tropical cyclone Bangladesh. Bangladesh is one place which always gets cyclones. Earthquake in Pakistan, the China, Central Europe, Russia, earthquake. So mostly, if you observe, you might see a pattern that earthquakes are the uh, largest natural disaster which causes extreme fatalities. And also, the earthquake doesn't just kill people; it also destroys the entire property. Like almost all the buildings in that zone gets destroyed. Recently, there was an earthquake in Turkey as well. This is number of natural disaster in 2019 whole globally worldwide. There were 194 incidents of floods all over the world. 90 instances of storms. Storms are tropical cyclones, and I mean tropical storms, which is could be cyclones or typhoons or hurricanes. There were 32 occurrences of earthquake, 25 occurrences of landslide, extreme temperature, heat waves, 21 occurrences, drought, wildfire, volcanic activity, mass movement. Mass movement is because of dry famine. Thankfully, there was no strong famine last year. Okay, now I have a collection of pictures. Maybe you can take a look of these are all actual pictures. This was smoke covered city after forest fire. This was somewhere near California. So the entire area became red, bright red, and because of smoke, people had problem with breathing. People had problems where they felt like their lungs are burning up. There was very little visibility. Visibility is important because unless there is visibility, flights cannot come. So relief operations get slowed, they get delayed, or and even it becomes difficult for people to drive. So again, that also affects the relief measures. So this was a smoke-covered city after forest fire. And then this is a soil erosion. This used to be a forest land which actually got destroyed, and the forest were deforested. And then these are the trees which used to hold up the soil. But once the forest has been removed, what happens? The soil got eroded because of some rain, and then what happens? The entire land crumples up. This is another example. This is an example of climate change, how the globe is becoming more warmer. Same day of the year, because you might say that, oh, this is summer, this might be a summer picture, and the other was a winter picture. But no, this is just Alaska, and which used to be 100 years ago. It used to be a completely snow covered region, which is more green now. Becoming green is not a good thing for Alaska. For us, it's a good thing, but for Alaska, it used to be completely snowy, which means the temperature is increasing over these lands. These entire snow covered regions is completely gone now. We have very little snow cover now. The plastic pollution. This could be land, this ocean, everywhere. Plastic. Plastic hazard is uh, mostly the street cows that you see, they consume a lot of plastic, which is why sometimes when they actually get choked to death because of the excessive usage of plastic. This is actually a sea turtle which died due to plastic. This won an award. These two pictures won an award because this is showing the impact of plastic, that how our simple use of plastic, for one plastic bag that you use for one day, can actually kill species like these. This is a seal and this is a turtle. Sea turtle washed up on shore with plastic covered all over its neck. It choked to death. Forest fire again. Deforestation. This is actually a picture before and after. This is not before. This entire area used to be on the left, but entire regions have been destroyed due to deforestation. Example of a tsunami. This is the height of a buildings and this is the height of a tsunami. It's really nobody can ever face a tsunami and survive. Floods. This was a picture which also won an award. This was about famine, how much drought can get affected, how much people uh, suffer due to drought or famine, where just all they had to do was proper moderately distribution of food and other natural resources. picture is from Yemen. Yemen is one country where there is a severe famine going on right now, and several UN bodies are actually taking a look at into it. They are asking for help all over the world. They are asking for relief measures. They are asking for food, money, or any sort of help. And this is actually a picture from 2020 or 2019, not much farther than that. And now let's come to our own country, and this is today's news. Air pollution rising faster. This you can find in Indian Express. I mentioned the sources because so that in case if you have a doubt, you can just go and check them. India home to 9 of the 10 most polluted global cities and lost 8.5% of the GDP in 2013 to air pollution. Imagine that out of the 10 most polluted cities, we have the 9 most polluted. Imagine the level of impact that would have on people who are sick, the elderly, or pregnant women, children, all that. And they have to live through that all their lives. Once your lungs get slightly damaged during your childhood, there is very little chance that you can actually recover completely in your future. This is also today's news that cyclone Nivar 3 killed trees after a severe cyclone. This was what I talked about several times today, and also which you are quite familiar if you watch news. Now comes the important part. We understood what is it about. I mentioned important part for all the parts because I think everything is important, but uh, I think the most important would still be man-made problems, but this is also important for us to know what we can do about it. So what can we do about it? Directly saying we can do a lot of things. We know what the problems are. I didn't add any slide about what we can do, like instead of traveling too much in solo in a car or something, you can use public transport. If it's a short distance, you can always walk or cycle, or use less plastic, save water. These are all things you will learn all through your childhood, all through your school days, all through your early junior college days and all. It's not something that is new. It's not, for example, if I tell you one good habit is never lie, you always know that. It's not something which you heard for the first time. It's not like nobody ever told you do not lie, lying is a bad thing. And little things that you do for the society or generally for the environment is not a small thing, which it's not like a surprise thing that you never heard about it. But these are things that might be useful for you. These are all in climate NGOs. This is not just a small list. There are like thousands of more. Maybe every city has its own climate initiative, or young people who come together and join a event or organization and then fight climate change. Or people in beaches and all. A lot of people I think it's Versova beach in Mumbai, where a lot of people just gather together and clean up an entire beach. There are a lot of initiatives all over the world, even in India. These are 4 quite famous ones, which actually you can be a part of that. You can get more idea about how you can collaborate. Maybe, for example, you might have an idea and you don't know how to do what to do about it or how to implement it. You can always get proper ideas from them. You can collaborate with them. And I'm not saying that these are only 4. There are many others. I'll use it 4 examples. And then what these are government things. Government actually has a ministry for environment and forest, and we have different acts. So this is how government is trying. Indian Forest Act is to protect the forest land, wildlife protection, environment protection acts is the most recent one. And there is a new environmental bill which happened recently, but I didn't include that because of some political reasons. So Environment Protection Act, which is the most recent, 1985. There was one latest one. This is the just one before that. So how we are protecting environment and stuff. And now if a natural disaster happens, who is in charge of it? If it's a large scale natural disaster like a cyclone, the National Disaster Management Authority comes into picture. But if it's related to a small state, small region like heat wave and all, instead of involving the entire nation into it, each state has its own disaster management authorities and disaster management organizations which come into picture. They carry out the relief mechanisms or the rehabilitation or any sort of help that they need. The thing about environmental sciences, you can always do a little at a time. You don't have to do a lot. Like you know how people say save 1 glass of water every day, and over a period of time it becomes a 1 glass, and over a period of time you get a bucket full of water. It's something like that, a little at a time, but over time it becomes a lot. So you can do that. Always anybody can help do that, like very simple things, like for example, if you go to a supermarket, instead of always spending that extra 3 or 4 rupees, you can always directly purchase instead of purchase your stuff and keep that in your own cloth bag, or else you can buy one proper bag and keep it jute bag or something, which you can carry and reuse it multiple times, which would be quite helpful. You might think that it's just 4 rupees or just one time, but the thing is, over a period of time, you are accumulating so much of plastic waste. You can try to reduce that. So, and this is yes. So, thank you. I am really glad that I had a chance to speak about all these issues. I don't know how useful this can be, but at least if one of you are interested, I hope this would be useful for you. And then, if you want more information and all, you can always go to this link, UNCC eLearn. This is United Nations Climate Change Learning Partnership, and it's a small course. You will even get a certificate. If you It's a free course, you'll get a certificate. You can always complete that course. It gives a proper introduction about climate and climate change and stuff. Or else you can always Google it, or check it out on YouTube, which mostly you are quite familiar with, I guess. And now comes the time for questions.
Uh, Hello, madam.
Yeah, hello.
Madam, you
Yes.
can switch on your camera, madam.
Yes, I did that.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Any questions?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Riba, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Actually, we listed here few questions from the students, ma'am.
Okay.
Due to lack of time, very few questions we would like to place in front of you.
Okay.
Question number one is, why are we, ma'am, you can switch on your camera, ma'am.
I think the camera is on. Oh. Okay. Yes. Sorry. It's off. Okay. Yes. Yes. Go ahead, please. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, question number one, why are we facing natural disasters frequently nowadays?
One major thing is about climate change. Climate change is for a cyclone to happen. Let's say the example of Nivar, because that's the most relevant thing right now. We are facing more cyclonic activity in the Indian Ocean now because Indian Ocean has become warmer. Why is it becoming warmer? Once it becomes more warmer, more evaporation, more water retention in the atmosphere, and that becomes a cyclone. So for a cyclone to happen, you need there are 6 parameters, but one of the most important is sea surface temperature should be about 26 degrees. And because the ocean has become warmer, the surface temperature remains more than 26 degrees over longer periods. Earlier, it only used during summers we had that temperatures. Now we have that temperatures even in winter. So that has caused an increase in cyclonic activity in Indian Ocean. That would be one example. And then forest fires are also one thing that has increased recently, because forests dry a lot, and if it is extremely dry, then it becomes easy fuel for fire. So because the summers are too intense, like what happened in California and Australia, they had very hot summers the last year and this year, and that has increased the forest fire actually.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. And one more question from Ritika. May I know the reasons for urban flooding, madam? Recently, yes, madam. Urban flooding.
Okay.
Recently, we observed in Hyderabad, Chennai, and etc. What are the reasons?
I think I covered that in the talk. It's mostly about improper planning of land. Yes, the urban constructions. Yeah, I use the exact 2 examples actually, Hyderabad and Chennai, where mostly the cities expanded really fast. A lot of ponds and lakes have been covered with soil, and then construction happened over that. So when the rain happens, the water has nowhere to go. They have to get into these regions where it is blocking it is not getting percolated into the groundwater, but it just remains on the soil for multiple days and causing floods. That's why cities have more floods. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. And the question from Manasa, how to maintain ecosystem balanced? We the human beings are responsible for all animals are getting towards endangered and endemic. Can you
Yes.
suggest? Yes, yes.
Okay. So anybody who gets a proper solution for that would get a Nobel Prize. Actually, the thing is, it's not one person's thing. Everybody has to do a little bit collectively. Like, I can stop using plastic, that doesn't mean that it would change. Everybody has to come together. It's like the same thing, example of corona. One person, if I decide that I want to remain corona free and I don't wear a mask, or I wear a mask properly, it won't make a lot of difference. The thing is, everybody has to wear a mask or everybody has to sanitize their hands. Climate change is also something like that. Everybody has to take care of it. They have to do their own share of it. Like I said, a little at a time, but a lot over time. So you can always start by doing small things. Like I mentioned, like, don't cut trees or plant more trees. Have your own roof garden if you want. Try to use mostly people have geysers. Try to use a solar panel for that geyser system if it's possible. You can have small gardens in your balconies if you want, and use less plastic. Like, carry your own bags to a supermarket. These are all simple things that you can start with. On a larger scale, you can join organizations or groups where they have events where people get together, cleaning up of lakes events or cleaning up of a beach event. All such things, you can always contribute that. Or else, even if further, once you become an engineer, mostly you are all going to be great engineers, I hope. So once you all get into engineering, you can always get into civil engineering branch or even different fields. You can always contribute as an engineer to create inventions which actually help in destroying plastic or curbing the use of plastic or recycling the plastic.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Even spreading awareness about environment, ecosystem,
Yes.
climate change, that also our prime duty, I feel.
Yes.
And, one more question, ma'am, from Ritika. What is the reason for air pollution in Delhi?
Uh,
Delhi
primary
climate.
reason, yes, primary reason, not just vehicular emissions, they have stubble burning, which also I covered in the talk. Stubble burning is burning of agricultural land after harvesting, not before harvesting. After harvesting, it's really manually taxing or exhausting for anybody to actually remove all the remaining stubble. So they actually set it on fire, which actually releases a lot of pollution into the atmosphere, and which actually, because the winds are coming from Punjab and Haryana regions towards Delhi, they are affecting Delhi the most.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, question from Srijana. May I know the reasons for AP chemical gas leakage and how we can control such kind of accidents?
Okay, those are also they also come under man-made disasters. Actually, the AP chemical was a small. It could be. You can just say that it was small. It's a small organizational flaw. You can maybe it was a problem of the equipment or somebody who managed the equipment. We would not know the reasons exactly. Even Bhopal gas tragedy was a great example of that. More than 1 lakh people lost their life, and several people suffered from all the deformities because of that tragedy for several decades after that. I think Bhopal gas tragedy happened in 1987 or 88, I think. So the thing is, those are small scale things. Okay, let's, in a global perspective, it's a small scale thing. So if anybody does their job sincerely, then mostly such things can be avoided. Like I said, it's like a forest fire. Anybody who threw away the cigarette stuff, if he had taken care to actually uh, you know uh, extinguish the fire, the forest fire would not have happened. And the same thing with this. So I cannot exactly comment on that because the case is still going on,
Yes.
and we
Yes.
don't know all the details about that. But we can say that it's a small thing. It's not something that we could control. Maybe, for example, like a explosion in the house, gas cylinder burst and all. It's not. There might be some problem. We cannot always say that this is because of this person's fault. You
Yes,
cannot
ma'am.
point out like that. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And the last question, ma'am. Uh, can you mention some mitigation steps for protecting animals from disasters?
Mitigation steps. So I think the best thing would be reforestation. Reforestation is the opposite of deforestation. So a lot of animals actually are suffering because their ecosystem is getting destroyed and they have nowhere to live. And there's a tiger. It could be in the news in the last 4-5 days. It's in this very week. There was news that there was a female tiger which had to travel some 4,000 kilometers because there was no male, which means just one tiger had to travel such far distances. Which that means normally there used to be a lot of tigers and there is no habitat for the tiger now. So reforestation and decreasing the amount of deforestation that we do now could actually save a lot of wildlife. If they have plenty of place to live, they would thrive naturally.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so many questions are there. By considering the time, we are concluding here, ma'am. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to you, and I would like to explain about your entire presentation in a brief manner.
Okay.
You explained not only the ecosystem, ma'am, you explained about biodiversity and the mitigation steps and disasters and man-made problems and their solutions also. And one more thing, ma'am, actually the entire things you covered, the same things are there in our syllabus also. So thank you very much, ma'am. And I hope you will successfully complete your research work in your selected environmental field. Thank you one and all. And thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Gangadhar sir. Sir invited me for a week ago, and sir is also a PhD student in chemistry. He also knows a lot about. I'm sure that he knows about air pollution better than me. So
Yes,
thank you for
ma'am.
inviting me, and also Chandrika ma'am. She helped me set up all this technique things today morning, and yeah, thank you, and also thank you Stanley College of Engineering and Technology. It was nice
Thank
talking to
you
you
so
all.
much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And my dear students, now this is the last day of our induction program. Now I would like to invite our director, madam, Dr. V. Anuradha Garu. Please convey the concluding remarks of our induction program. Okay. My dear students, on behalf of our director, Madam Dr. B. Anuradha Garu, and our convener, Madam Dr. YVS Pragati Garu, I would like to convey my concluding words regarding the first phase of induction program conclusion. My dear students, the last 6 days, we successfully completed with successful seminars. First of all, I would like to thank to Sri Gopi Krishna Garu for his excellent speech about personality development, and Sri Ravikant Regalla Garu for his motivational speech about engineering education, and Shrikant Sriram Garu for his excellent words about career planning, and Sri Brigadier Ganesham Garu for his talk about Palle Shrujana, and Dr. Bhatiyar Chowdhury about the health and nutrition and physical fitness, and Feba Francis Garu, a research scholar, a prestigious university across the India, that is Hyderabad Central University, for her talk about environmental ethics and values and biodiversity concept. Not only these topics, I also extend my sincere thanks to the subject experts, Dr. V. Srilata Garu, Dr. S. Rajendra Garu, Dr. K. Nagireddy Garu, and Dr. Narendra Reddy Garu, and the team members, the induction committee, convening committee, convener Dr. YVS Pragati Garu, and myself as a co-convener, and coordinators Dr. V. Srilata, Vidya Bhargavi, Chandrika, Saraswati, Maunika, Priyanandini, Revati, Shirisha, Nagalakshmi, Lalita, Sandeep, Shrivani, Neha, Aishwarya. And separately and sincerely, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to our management, chairman and correspondent, sir, Dr. Shri K. Krishna Rao Garu, and management member, Shri Rakesh Reddy Garu, and director, sir, Professor A. Vinay Babu Garu, Dr. Satya Prasad Lanka Garu, principal of our college, and director, madam, and head of the department, Sciences and Humanity, Dr. V. Anuradha Garu, and other team members, head of the departments of the core branches, and faculty members, and not the least, my dear students, parents, well-wishers, and their family members. I sincerely extending my thanks to all. And with this, the induction program 2020 first phase completed, and the next onwards, you will go to your core groups or core branches like CSE, EEE, ECE, AIDS, etc. So with this, I am concluding the session. Thank you very much.